What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the first episode of the year of the Big Five Pod, episode number 66 overall. Welcome to 2024. I am, of course, your co-host, Kyle Morello, and next to me, co-host Jake Copestick. Cope, how were your holidays? I know we spent New Year's together, so we can talk about that in a sec, but how were your holidays?
Yeah, holidays are very good, nice and relaxing. Had a couple days without college hoops to watch some football, to relax a little bit. 'Cause hey, like we're pretty close to March, Kyle. Think about it. It was nice to have a little bit of rest and relaxation for that. But yeah, holidays were nice. They were relaxing. I did not make any see you next year jokes. So I'll count that as a huge W in my book.
I
You're
made
welcome
all of the
for
see
your
you next year
service.
jokes,
I did not
so
make a single one. I was not that dude, but the holidays were great. I ate a lot. I lost like 10 to 15 pounds and I was sick with bronchitis and pneumonia. And then I don't know if I sound a little congested now. I got sick again because there's a cold going around my house. So I've been sick like 3 of the last 4 or 5 weeks.
jeez.
So thing is, I lost some weight, but it was the perfect time, I guess, for that. I guess you could say it was the perfect time for that to happen because it was the holidays. My cousins came over and made a bunch of cookies. So I've just been eating everything in sight. I mean, you eat a bunch during the holidays. So I think I'm back to normal, which is nice, but very, very good holiday nonetheless. How about yourself?
Mine was good. Mine was good. I am that person who will make the see you next year, and I haven't seen you in a year jokes. Hey, whoa, listen. Somebody has to do it, and I'll be the corny one. It's fine. Somebody has to do it, you know. But it was good. It was good. Spent some time with family, Shelby and her family as well, and some neighbors and my friends, of course. Kopi spent New Year's together at Fishtown Tavern with a couple friends, which was awesome. Great time, and yeah, we're back in the swing of things now. Um, I am going away next week though, so I to be determined on what this next week's schedule is going to look like for us. But we got an episode right now that we got to get into. And there's no quick hitters today. Actually, no, Cope, there's one quick hitter. Yes, you did mention to me one quick hitter. So, Cope, get that ball. I know it's going to be a very fast break here. Um, but we got Cope's quick hitters, ladies and gentlemen. The first one of 2024. Run that break, sir.
Yeah, it's going to be a very, very quick break. So I have my ball with me. We're going to get up and down the court in record time here. We'll see if we can do it maybe without a couple dribbles. We'll run a true
Hmm.
three-man weave here. But I'm going to give a shout out to Joe Mahalik at LaSalle. He is going to be honored with an award. If you know anything about him, he suffered a stroke. He's been coaching basketball a long time. He suffered a stroke a handful of years ago, and has gotten back into coaching with Fran Dunphy at LaSalle. He's going to receive Most Courageous Sports Person Award from the Philadelphia Sports Writers on January 17th in Cherry Hill, New Jersey. Um, his the summer of 2020, he was at Hofstra. He suffered the stroke that he had, and excuse me, was out of coaching for a couple of years now. Gets back in the fold of things at LaSalle. Still very well liked there, and it's pretty cool to see him. He got to coach against his son Joe Mahalik Jr., who's at and coaching Penn right now. So that's the only thing we have here, but really, really cool award here, especially for a guy like that who's coached for as long as he did, had the health scare that he did, still wanted to get back into coaching, still doing his thing on the bench. So shout out to Joe Mahalik. Um, Congrats on that award. Definitely well deserved for a guy like that to have something like that happen to him, still be on the bench, still get back into coaching. Obviously something that he loves a lot. And how cool is that? Like I said, family affair that we'll talk about another one coming up soon here, Kyle. But cool to have a family affair like that, where he's able to still be in coaching and be able to coach against his son. So yeah,
Absolutely.
quick little break there. Got up and down the court, no dribbles, ran a cool little three-man weave there, cool little layup out of that. But yeah, congrats to Joe Mahalik on that. Coming up pretty soon, he'll be awarded with the most courageous sports person by the Philadelphia Sports Writers. So very, very cool honor for Mr. Mahalik.
Yes. Congratulations, Mr. Mahalik. That is awesome. And obviously very much well deserved. All right, now to the main event. Uh, we're not going to go over game by game like we normally would do. Obviously, we were gone for over a week. There's a lot of things to go over. So we're gonna do kind of team by team here. We'll spend a little bit of time on each team going through, and then we'll do the game previews at the end of the episode. We'll each pick a game, like we've been doing to go over for the weekend. But first, we'll start with games that have happened already. So, since our last episode, every team's played at least once, some teams more than that, one of those being Villanova, and probably the best team in this stretch who went 2-0 over the holiday break. So, they beat DePaul 84 to 48 in Chicago, which we previewed before the break. Listen, we knew that game might not turn out to be so pretty for DePaul. Obviously, they did beat Villanova last year, but what we said was accurate. They did turn the ball over a lot, though. They had 16 turnovers, but they dominated, shot 53.6% to DePaul's 30. They outshot them from the three-point land 54.5% to 16.7. It was just a complete domination, and the best player of that game, Hakeem Hart, led the team with 20 points. And then they had a very, very close game against Xavier, which they did end up winning, of course, by just 1 point, though, 56 to 55. Low scoring defensive game. Team Hart played well, excuse me. Justin Moore was injured for both of these games. And Brennan Hausen has been shooting the lights out in Big East play so far. So it's been good to see. It's been good so far for these Villanova Wildcats in Big East play. Have not lost yet in Big East play, which is obviously a very important thing as we get into conference play and gearing up towards the conference tournament. So Cope, Villanova Wildcats with a very strong start to the year and a very strong end to the year as well. What jumps out to you about these two games for them?
Yeah, well, hey, it's lonely at the top. Villanova, the only 3-0 team in the Big East right now. Who would have thought? Even look, still very early. We're 3 games in. Villanova number one, Seton Hall number two has got wins over UConn and at Providence. Don't think anybody saw that coming because you have two top 10 teams in Providence who just jumped in the top 25 below them. So I think the most impressive thing is Hakeem Hart, also defensively as well. You look at how good they're playing. But Hakeem Hart, a guy who first couple games, you look at the Penn game, he played single-digit minutes. You look at the St. Joe's game, he didn't get many minutes. And then in Justin Moore's absence, he's been the guy that has stepped up the most. We know that Jordan Longino, really besides Dixon and Justin Moore, has been their second best offensive threat. And not that he hasn't played well or stepped up in Justin Moore's absence, but the last 2 games, Hakeem Hart's led this team in scoring. And he played very well in the Creighton game as well. So they need him to play more. Played 30 minutes last night, had 14 points, 5 boards, 3 assists, 5 and 9 from the field. His defense has been great. He had a play where he dove on the floor and knocked his head back into the TV booth, whatever you want to call it there. He's playing really, really well, and just makes you think, why wasn't this guy playing earlier? And look, a lot of new players. Kyle Neptune's got to figure out the rotations of what he has, but Keem Hart, extremely, extremely impressive. You mentioned Brendan Hausen as well. They really needed him to get going. He was 5 of 20 in the final 4 non-conference games, 7 of 14 first 3 games of Big East play. And although I don't think he can shoot 50%, now he's that good of a shooter. Just he's playing against guys that are really, really good. Don't know if you can shoot 50%, but 4 for 7 last night. If he can be on a pace like that, look, even if he can't put the ball on the deck and you're like, hey, the only thing I want you to do is shoot. And you have a guy who can shoot like that. He'll space the floor for you. The defense has to respect you. It's going to open more things up for you. So they're going to need him to continue to shoot more so like the 7 of 14 than the 5 of 20 that he was shooting. Look, shooters go through slumps, but you can't keep the best shooters out of it like that. You can't keep them down for too long. But the defense, Kyle, how about look at this? The last, let's say 5-6 games they played. You even look at the Big 5 Classic game they played. Gave up 57 to Drexel even though they lost. 72 they gave up to K-State in overtime. 56 to UCLA. 66 to Creighton. 48 to DePaul, who I'm not even going to touch on that game. They are horrendous. And after DePaul lost, they lost like 3 bye games, we said. Northern Illinois, Long Beach State, and then I think Purdue, Fort Wayne, and it might even be more than that because I think they're 3-10 on the year. 1 win is over Louisville. Pretty much after the second bye game, it was like, okay, Stubblefield's done. they're gonna hire somebody else. They are horrendous. Only if Georgetown did not exist, they would be the basement. They already are. They're second to worst team in the Big East as far as standings go. If Georgetown wasn't there, they would be. I'm not really going to touch on that game, but you talk about the only game in the last month from the start of December and on. Since the St. Joe's game, they have given up 70 points once, and that was in a game that went to overtime on the road against the Big 12 team. Defense has been good. That's credit to Eric Dixon when he has to play against a team that played pretty big and has a guy like Abu Uzman who still had a good game but can hold his own against bigger players. When you have TJ Bamba and Tyler Burton and you have a bunch of guys that are pretty much positionless and very switchable on the outside, and you're very versatile with your defense. And when you have size and length like that, pretty much at every spot, it makes it hard to attack mismatches. The defense really, really has been good for a game that's Xavier game. And it's Xavier, not Xavier. Kyle, our guy.
Hey,
It's all
man,
good.
I can't do
It's
nothing
all good.
around here.
Xavier. Xavier. But X, AKA X or the X-Men. But you don't pronounce the X when you actually say the
All
name.
right.
Defense has been there. It was a rough shooting night for both teams. Shout out to Nova's perimeter guys locking down Quincy Oliveri and Desmond Claude, the two leading scorers for this Xavier team. Shot 3 of 13 and 5 of 17 last night. Desmond Claude had two good looks at the end of the game. They cleared out one side for him to rip baseline and put up a right-handed layup. Really, really good defense. It was a good look for him, but they made Xavier work for everything. And then Claude had a shot where very, very uncharacteristic of Eric Dixon. Could have made this a 3-point game, misses both free throws. Claude comes down, pulls a shot from the left elbow, and Eric Dixon, who just missed those two free throws, talking about that Villanova attitude, is the guy that contested him. And Desmond Claude was short on a shot that could have won the Musketeers the game. So defense, defense, defense. We've seen Villanova have rough shooting nights, but when you can defend like this and when you can keep teams under 70, you're going to win a lot more than you lose. So defensively, more than anything, this is where that's where Villanova's having success. I will say this though: at the end of this game, Xavier's doing a lot of trapping. Villanova had a turnover on the baseline with Eric Dixon, and then Brendan Hausen got the ball just over half court, picked up a dribble, two guys trapped him, they called a timeout, and then TJ Bamba lost the ball. That resulted in a Quincy Oliveri almost layup, but Jordan Longino came from behind and swatted it, which is a huge, huge game-saving play. I thought Mark Armstrong should have been on the floor there as a ball handler. They just got to handle presses better, and that's kind of where Justin Moore, not having him hurts because a guy that you want to put on the line and your best player and your ball handler, that's the guy that you want out there. So that's where they missed them a little bit. They're going to have to not make you want to pull your hair out at the end of games here. But look, a win's a win. They're 3-0. Nobody's going to put an asterisk next to it and be like, oh, well, they almost lost. Doesn't count. A win's a win. 3-0. Pretty good start for them. Hopefully they can continue on this trend because they won 3 games in Atlantis. They're like, uh-oh, here comes Villanova. And then they lost the 2 Big 5 games. So hopefully they can keep it going. Because after this, Kyle, they have the Johnnies we'll talk about Saturday. Then they have some time off before they play DePaul at home. And then from January 15th on, at number 7 Marquette, home against number 4 UConn, at St. John's, at Butler, who they lost to last year and is having a very good season, who's 10-4, Thad Matta's second year, at number 7 Marquette. They have 2 more games before they have an Armageddon to finish out this month. So they really need these next, though. But to start conference play, to start the new year, really, really good stuff from Villanova here.
Yeah, I would say, the best start possible. I mean, this is they're 3-0. They beat a ranked team, they beat another good team, and then they beat a really bad team, which they need to do. They didn't do that in one of their matchups last year. So very important for them, and very excited to see how it continues. I mean, they're up to 27 in KenPom, which is pretty good too. Yeah, nothing but good things to say right now, I think, about Villanova. I mean, I see you mentioned, breaking the press probably needs a little bit more work. Just like the Lost Arts in Philadelphia Rec Basketball League. It's fine. It's fine. That's a discussion for another day. But we're gonna move on. Another team that had a interesting break here, Temple. They went 1-1 since we last recorded. They came back to beat Portland 55 to 54. Actually, they went 2-1 since we last recorded. They lost to Old Dominion by 15 points. They beat Portland at the end of the Diamond Head Classic. Obviously, they had the game before that they lost in the Diamond Head Classic too. And then right now, as we're recording, they're playing South Florida. Um, so we'll see what happens with that. We're not going to know by the time we finish recording this. But they go 1-1 since the last episode, 2-1 Diamond Head Classic. Uh, it's looking a little iffy right now for Adam Fisher's squad. I mean, I know there's been some injuries too. I don't think they've had a full squad for a while, um, which is obviously a little bit concerning. But these things do happen. Unfortunately, it is athletics. Um, but now they're going into conference play here. First game at South Florida, like I said, happening right now. What do you make of these Owls that, didn't have maybe the greatest Diamond Head Classic they were hoping for, but now they turn the page to conference play, which is obviously, right now the most important thing.
Yeah, well, it's definitely going to get harder. They didn't exactly play, a tough non-conference by any means, and it's only going to get harder now. I mean, you're playing South Florida that even in your first year, you have to go down there to start. You're going to play Wichita State. That's looked pretty good. East Carolina, I think, can be a bit of a sleeper if Cam Hayes, who transferred in, who just got the waiver with everybody else, can kind of get acclimated here. Play a bunch of games on the road, and then it's coming at some point. Like you get to February, they're going to have to play Memphis. They're going to have to play FAU. Thank God they don't have to play Memphis the one time because they lost on a heartbreaker at the buzzer and then lost when they were down there. But yeah, this is what's the most important for them right now. It was nice for them to travel, that far across the country to Hawaii to at least get one win. A little shake up in the starting lineup in the Portland game. Shane Dezzoni coming in for Matteo Piccarelli, but the bench really not playing much. Zion Stanford only 2 minutes. Have to imagine he wasn't healthy if that's the case. But Jordan Riley was back, had a double-double in this game, only shot 4 at 12, but did have a double-double here, which is nice. So they won a very, very low-scoring rock fight. So good on them. But yeah, they're going to have to hopefully string some together here. And, it's like I said, it's going to be tougher. They really didn't play a great non-conference, and not like that's anybody's fault. When a first-year head coach comes in there, like they have Ole Miss and VCU, but besides that, like you throw a D2 team in there, and it's not first-year head coach. You're worried about the schedule. You're worried about just putting a team together. You need to start recruiting. Like there's a lot going on. But like I said, it was nice to see them get at least one win there. I thought they should have beat Old Dominion as well. Nevada game, I'm not gonna fret. They can win the Mountain West and make the tournament. Um, but I'm a little worried about, do they have enough creators sometimes on offense? Like, can they, is it look? It's a good game that High Miller only scored 6 points against the Pilots, and they were still able to pull this one out. They're definitely going to need Jordan Riley. I think they definitely suffer when he's not in there as a guy that can create his own shot and get looks for himself. So hopefully this team can stay healthy. I hope they got health for Christmas, and their New Year's resolution is to stay healthy because it just hasn't happened the last couple of years. And we really liked Temple last year. The last few years, like we've liked the teams that they had, and it's like they it's not that they can't stay out of their own way. It's just I feel like they never get off the ground or can create any sort of consistency or momentum because they're just hurt all the time. Or guys are away from the team. So hopefully we can see their full complement at least. So at least they won a game out in Hawaii. Oh, they should have went 2-1. But nice to see them at least get one W. Hopefully they can stay healthy because I don't even think we saw one healthy team in the McKee era. I think they were just hurt
They
like the
were hurt
entire
a
time.
lot.
So hopefully that doesn't happen anymore. It's like it's so deflating. Like you're so much hype around the team and then can't even all get out there on the floor.
Yeah.
Hopefully they can
Um,
stay healthy because it clearly seems that even with the coaching change, the injury bug hasn't went away, which is unfortunate.
yeah, it is unfortunate. I mean, obviously it's not like some of these things are fluky or they're, just unlucky, really is probably the better word. But it does seem like it's a trend right now with Temple. And it's concerning, but at the same time, it is basketball, and unfortunately, these things do happen. So hopefully, they can just get healthy, and then we'll see. Obviously, they weren't picked to finish crazy high in the American this year. hopefully they can mitigate that with at least a healthy roster would be the best thing here. All right. We're gonna move on here. We're gonna go to Penn right now. They had also a very interesting break here. Won in overtime against a not really all that good Rider team, 77 to 73. And then they played two really good teams in Houston, who's the number three team in the country at the time, and Auburn, and they lost both games. They lost to Houston 81-42. They lost to Auburn 88 to 68. The big story here is that Clark Slacker got hurt after only playing 6 minutes in the Houston game, did not play in the Auburn game. Um, it was just not really all that pretty. And I don't even know if I really want to spend a ton of time going over the two losses because solely for the fact that one, they were without their best player, and number two, they were just playing teams that outmatched them in talent and in coaching. No offense to Steve Donahue, of course, he's a great coach, but you go against Kelvin Sampson and you go against Bruce Pearl. I mean, they're great. They've been to Final Fours recently. So it's just tough. You can't really, I don't think, judge Penn off of these two very high major, high class teams that they lost to. So I'm not going to judge them too much for these. Obviously, it does stink to see them lose these games. You want them to be at least a little bit more competitive, at the very least in these games. The Rider game definitely concerning a little bit that they only squeaked that out in overtime. So we can definitely get into that. But Cope, what do you make of these three Penn games here?
Yeah, so the Rider game did really well in the first half. They made a bunch of threes, and then they did not make a three in the second half. They made one in overtime that Tyler Perkins banked in at the end of the shot clock. That was actually a huge shot for them to come away with this win. They blew a lead. Ryder put the press on, and they were turning the ball over. They were letting them get back in. And Mervyn James had a really good game for Ryder, who was projected to be at the top of the MAC. And they did play a pretty tough non-conference schedule as a small team, but they're one of the favorites, if not the favorite, to win that conference. The thing that was concerning, though, Kyle, is I'm watching this game, and I see them struggle against the press. And I looked at the schedule, and I said, I wonder if they're going to have trouble with the press against Houston, which I'm totally being sarcastic about. After I saw what happened against Ryder, I was like, oh my God, this is not going to be good.
Oh,
Because this Houston team, Kyle, if I always say this if I was a coach, I honestly think like 90% of people would say this. They would probably say this about Villanova when Jay Wright was still playing too. But for me, so now, like more so now with Kelvin Sampson, this Houston and the program he's built there. If there was a team that I wanted my team to play like, it would easily be them. They're tough, they're physical, they're mean, they're nasty. This is what they do to teams, Kyle. They are on pace to have the best Ken Pom rated defense of all time. They have 13-0. In 8 of those 13 games, Kyle, they have held opponents to not 60, not 55, to 50 or less. Their defense is absolutely nuts. They want it more than you. They are in the 330s in terms of height in America. Yet they're the fourth best offensive rebounding team. They want it more than you. They are physical. You are like Penn goes down this game 18-0. I saw a similar thing happen 2 years ago at Temple. I think it was 17-4 at the under 12, under
yeah.
14. Like that's what they do. They jump on you. They pounce on you. I almost use the term um were you a WWE fan by chance? You know who the Great Khali is when I say that?
I know of him. I wasn't a WWE fan though, so I don't know a lot.
He had this finisher. I forget what it was called. Was it the vice grip or something like that? And he was like the 7'3" guy who had these enormous hands. And what he would do is just put his hands around your head, squeeze it until you tapped out. I feel like that's what their defense is like. I mean, they just pulverize you. They're they're so physical. They can stay in front of the ball so well. You can hardly get the ball into the paint or inside the 3-point line. Their defense is just absolutely spectacular. And it's not an indictment on Penn at all. There's nothing wrong with you have to go to a team who's undefeated, who's ranked number 3 right now, that's gonna be there for a Final Four and a championship in March, and that's just better. There's nothing wrong with that. It's not an indictment on them at all. And then especially against a defense like that, to be without your best ball handler and your best player and your best scorer like that so early into the game, they were playing from behind anyway, and then that was a huge blow because in the very early in a game where you had to game plan a lot, did not get this thing out of hand. You lose a guy like Clark Slater. Oh, not an indictment on them at all, but it's wild how good this Houston defense is. Penn, 14 made baskets, Kyle, 7 made free throws. Combine those, you have 21 made baskets, if you will. They turn the ball over 22 times. Think about that. More turnovers than combined made baskets and made free throws. It just tells you how good this Houston team is. They're going to be right there again, like I said, in March. And honestly, Kyle, thank goodness they're not in the AAC anymore, because a wise man once said they would rip through that conference like a chainsaw through butter. That is how good this team is. They are more than equipped to go up to the Big 12. Amazing what Kelvin Sampson's done. And then the Auburn game, look, second half, they cut this lead down to 9 points. They really fought like hell to keep this game close. They do what they always do. Really good skip passes from Nick Spinoza. They move the ball well. They move it side to side well, make the defense think. Just kind of ran out of steam at the end against the bigger, longer, more athletic team in Auburn. But I got to say, like, really impressed with the freshmen here. Between Tyler Perkins, Sam Brown, and Nicholas Polanowski, those 3 guys were the 3 leading scorers in this game. Really impressive to go to Neville Arena. Really, really hard place to play, not just in the SEC, but in America. And do what they did. You have to be encouraged by the freshmen. And look, those 3 guys, like without Clark Slacker, sure, it's nice to have Nick Spinoza, who you can play your offense to and can score down low as well, but perimeter-wise, those guys are going to have to produce a lot for you. So encouraging for the freshmen, because now as they get into conference play, those 3 guys are going to have to show up to bear a lot of the load that Clark Slacker is leaving them with. And hopefully he can come back soon. I think I heard maybe February, but even if that's the case,
Wow.
we're really deep into conference play by the time that happens. So no timetable just yet. We'll update you on when that comes out if we can find it. But for right now, can't count on him being out there, which sucks because he was really having a good season. These freshmen played well in this last game, and it was against a really good opponent as well. There's some positive, I'm sure those guys aren't big on moral victories. There's some positives you can take from the Auburn game, but that Houston game, just tip your cap to a way, way better team. But conference play is going to start. And in the Ivy League, that's really the only thing that matters for you. Tune yourself up in the non-conference. Hopefully you can get some good wins. But now their real season starts, because all that matters is that automatic bid.
You're damn right, Cope. You're damn right. All that matters is that automatic bid. And the tough part about that is now that they don't have Slackert for however long they don't have Slackert for, uh, it's going to be a problem, because that's their guy that's going to help them get that automatic bid. Maybe he'll be back by the time the conference tournament starts, of course, but they have to get there. They have to finish in the top 4 of the Ivy League. Do I think they can do that? Absolutely. They have some other good players in their team, but it's a really unfortunate timing of this injury right now. Not that there's ever a fortunate timing for an injury, but especially right now when you know, we're getting ready to, well, we're starting conference play now. So it's tough. It's tough. But like you said, really, really tough teams to go against, except for Ryder, of course, but they did win that game. Uh, you move on, you go to conference play. They've got Dartmouth coming up here, which we'll go over in a second. So just got to take care of business. That's what it is. That's what it is. All right, let's go to the Hawks. How about the Hawks here? Very, very convincing win. Not convincing win. I mean, they were playing Loyola Maryland, but they won by 40 points. So very, very strong win for them in terms of the point differential department. And then a very, very, very disappointing loss against Rhode Island, 78-74 just on Wednesday night. So kind of a, more to J. Cole here, a little tale of two cities, except a tale of two games in that way. Cope, what do you got to say about the discrepancy between the absolutely dominant home win over Loyola Maryland on the 29th and then the disappointing road loss at Rhode Island to open up Atlantic 10 play?
Yeah, so I mean, an utter domination of Loyola Maryland, who finished that with that loss was 11. Rasheer Fleming led him 19-9. Sean Simmons had a huge highlight dunk on him. So I mean, he took off from outside the paint on the baseline and was able to dunk on somebody. So yeah, it's really good to see you finish out non-conference play, finish out the year in dominant fashion like that. But then conference play starts, and you go in, and if you're the Hawks, you're 10-2. You have a shot at an at-large.
10 and
Joe
3.
Lenardi had them right outside. I think he was it first four out, next four out. He had them on the cusp of the field. Some bracket projections had them in as a play-in team. Lot to be excited about. And you're playing a team in Rhode Island that's not very good. And for the second year in a row under Archie Miller, pretty much has an entirely new team. Pretty much all teams know. There's hardly any holdovers from last year. And they blow a double-digit lead in the second half to open conference play. And you went from having a shot at an at-large bid to now your margin for error, if you want that, is razor thin. And you still might not get it at that, even if you dominate the conference. So really, really disappointing. First half, I thought they played well. They ended the first half on a I believe it was a 9-3 run. They went on a quick 9-0 run. I think they gave up a three right before the half ended, but they gave themselves a bit of a cushion going into halftime. They were up by as many as 13 in the second half, and they blew it. I thought Rhode Island won more 50-50 balls. They wanted it more. They got some offensive rebounds, some second chance points, and just executed better down the stretch. And St. Joe's was fighting. Xavier Brown had a big three to tie it up. Reynolds knocked down some free throws at the end there. I had the first half on. It was kind of weird. They were like the in between game. I started out with LaSalle on my TV. I had St. Joe's on my laptop, and then I was watching. I had St. Joe's on my laptop and Villanova on my TV, and was like kind of going back and forth. But yeah, that second half, man. Billy Lang had a couple timeouts that he kept in his back pocket. Thought that maybe you could have stopped the run and stopped some momentum when you saw Rhode Island starting to feel things swing in their favor, and they're getting some offensive rebounds. Like they felt like they were just a more physical team. They got more 50-50 balls. And I feel like when stuff like that happens, you don't want them to blow the roof off the place and to go on a huge run when you're up that many. You could minimize some damage a little bit just to settle the guys down. I mean, can't take them home with you. I watched Vic Fangio coach the Broncos for a couple of years, and that guy was the king of doing that. And I can confirm that even if you finish a game with two timeouts, you don't start the next game out with five. You still start it with three. So I thought there was some timeouts that maybe you could use to halt some runs by Rhode Island. But the bottom line is this, Kyle, like it's a huge blow to your at-large bid. That shot might not even be there. If it exists, it is razor
I
thin.
don't think it does exist at this
I
point.
don't I think I'm right there with you because I don't imagine this is the only loss they're going to have. And then you look at their schedule, they're off until next Wednesday where they have to go to St. Louis, who's not very good. Will probably finish at the bottom of this conference, but they're also 0-1, and they're going to be at home. And St. Joe's is to fly all the way out there. And you're going to be playing against a team at home that really needs a win. And not to mention, Travis Ford has one of the hottest seats in the Atlantic 10, if not the hottest. Like they have a lot of reason to want to win that game and to give them a good game. And if you lose that, I can tell you for sure your at-large chances are. So really, really disappointing, to finish non-conference play 10-2, and then to go in there. Again, it's on the road, but to play a team that you should beat, really, really disheartening for the Hawks. Really, really disheartening. I thought they would win that game pretty handedly.
Bless you.
That was a problem. Thanks.
That's fine. I say bless you regardless. Um, yeah, it was extremely disappointing, like we said, especially blowing that lead in the second half. And I know, like, I understand why coaches might not call timeouts in those situations because they want their teams to learn how to fight through adversity. I understand that, and I think there's definitely times for that. But at the same time, like you said, you can't bring them home with you. I watched Adam Gase coach the Jets for a few years. Same thing. Can't take them home with you. Uh, you want to stop the run. You want to talk to your guys for a second. Calm down their home arena. Use the timeout. At least one of them. Maybe not both of them, but at least one of them. Uh, so that was a missed opportunity, and there's been a couple of those this season with that, and in the A&M Commerce game too. So it's just disappointing. Um, Still very high in this team. Obviously, they have a lot of talent, but now it might be looking like they're going to have to win the A10 in order to get in the NCAA tournament, and that's definitely not something that you know it can be done, but you don't want to rely on that. and now they're going to have to rely on that. So unfortunate for the Hawks, but hopefully they'll be able to bounce back after this and go from there. All right, two more teams to get into before we go over our previews to end the show. We're gonna go with Drexel because I do want to save LaSalle for last because they were unfortunately the worst team in the stretch. Um, but Drexel just had the one game, although they are playing tonight as we are recording this on Thursday night, January 4th, um, against UNC Wilmington. But they did beat Hampton at home, 99 to 65, complete and utter domination by them on New Year's Day. Um, I'm not gonna act like I watched this game, so I can't say that I know anything about the tape or anything. But they started out conference play with a banger, as they were projected to do in this conference. So that's what I can say about this game. Cope, what can you say?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to act like I watched this one either. There's only 5 games on New Year's Day, and I think if it's me and you, we're watching football for
We're
sure. And
watching
this is a
football.
this is
Yeah.
a noon game too. Um, I was awake by then. Don't make any assumptions that I was out of it or was struggling. Um, but yeah, Hampton's not very good. They're a newcomer here. They're going to be one of the worst teams in this conference, unfortunately. It's good to see him dominate him like that. All but one person scored, so nice to see him go around and everyone get a bucket for the most part. But yeah, I mean, the more important game that's actually worth talking about is this one. They're playing they're playing home against Wilmington right now. It's a 3-horse race in my opinion for this conference. UNC Wilmington, Drexel, Charleston. Those are the 3 dogs that are going to be there at the end. So to pick up wins like this, they did. I think they beat UNC Wilmington and Charleston last year actually at the deck. So a win would be huge for them. Unfortunately, we're not going to be able to watch this game until after it's done. Maybe we can watch it on Synergy because, again, it is on Flow Hoops, who I hope you got Cole for Christmas because you're horrific and you're terrible and we can't watch these games live. But up to this point, Luke House, 5 for 5, 3 for 3 from 3. He has not missed yet. That's huge. Still 17 minutes left in this game. And also, apparently, Flow Hoops doesn't let you share passwords. So even if I did know somebody with Flow Hoops. They pulled a Netflix on us, and I can't use anybody else's password. So yeah, I hope you got Cole for Christmas. I hope your New Year's resolution was to go to the gym, and then after like 2 weeks, you realize you hate it, and you're stuck being on the hook for that month of going to the gym, because you're terrible. And a game like this between two of the best CAA teams for sickos like ourselves, I kind of want to watch this, and it's a shame that
Yeah.
I can't. So yeah, maybe what I'll do is the next episode I'll have that be a quick hitter and then with the Temple game as well because there's 2 games going on at the same time. But regardless, this one matters. Hampton game, whatever. That score should have been the way it is. But Charleston, UNC Wilmington, those are the ones you circle on your calendar. Those are the ones that are going to matter the most when it comes to seeding in the CAA tournament.
Absolutely, absolutely. I'm very, very excited to watch this after we're done recording. As I edit this, but I think we have a new budding rivalry in the Big Five this year and on this podcast, and that would be Jake Copestick versus Flo Hoops.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yep.
Very, very heated. Seems to be one-sided at the moment. We'll see if there's any rebuttal from Flo Hoops at any point. I guess they're actually dominating you because you cannot watch these games. Um, but I do appreciate any flow hoop and you have for the rest of the season. So I'm sure everybody else does too.
Look, I need everybody who has Flow Hoops. We just got to boycott it. Then they'll fold. The CAA will find something else. Let's do that. Let's do that.
I'm
We'll
with it.
boycott Flow Hoops.
I'm with it. Uh,
Okay.
yeah, we don't need. We've moved past the need for flow hoops in the year 2024. So that's that. To prevent Cope from going on any further, we're going to move on and talk about the Explorers, who I'm just going to say they were kind of abysmal during this stretch that we had off. They lost to a Howard team that did not think they would lose to, 71 to 66. They did have 4 starters in double figures, but they only shot 37% from the field, 28% from three. Howard shot over 40% from three. They got out rebounded by Howard. So that was not good. That was on New Year's Eve. And then January 3rd, playing at home against George Mason. Very good team, first of all, going into this game. So I don't want to discredit George Mason in this at all, but uh, they were up 6 at the half. Things were looking good. and then they got outscored 40-19 in the second half, and they lost this game 77-62. And they allowed George Mason to shoot over 53% from the field and 54% from three. Um, Cope, we were very, very enthusiastic about this LaSalle team because they had gotten off to a very good start, best start in a while, I think. Fran Dunphy definitely had these guys playing well, and then these last two games have just been oof. I mean, I don't know really however many or whatever onomatopoeia I want to describe that with. It's just been brutal, especially this George Mason game where they were beating a quality team at home, and then they just I don't know what happened in that second half. Maybe you can tell me something that I don't know that happened in the second half of this game, but they just got completely outclassed for a lot of probably three out of the four halves of these two games. Obviously, the game against Howard was close, but they still shouldn't have lost to that Howard team. So I'm going to call it outclassing. But Cope, what do you got to say about this Explorers team that had two pretty disappointing results overall these last two games?
Yeah, two disappointing home losses for sure. Not going to touch on the Howard game because I didn't watch that one. I'll be honest with you, but I was
No,
tuned
me
in
neither.
last night
Me neither. Yeah.
to the Mason game. And look, really good start for Mason. 12-2 right now. Want to know in the conference, obviously. Tony Skinn takes over, first time head coach, who was part of the Mason team that went to the Final Four under Jim Larinaga. And he hit the ground running right away. He gets Keyshawn Hall from UNLV. He gets Darius Maddox from Virginia Tech. He gets Woody Newton to come in from Oklahoma State via Syracuse. So he's got three high major guys he's bringing in here. And here's the thing. The first half, I like that LaSalle was playing fast. They put up a good amount of points, put up 43 points. They made a bunch of threes. I think they were 8 for 15 at the half. A lot of guys are making shots. How about Ryan Zan? Gets the start for Rokas Yotus. Did not see that coming. And as they were announcing the starting lineups, to see that Rokas' dress. So I was kind of curious as to why that was. But then I stopped making any assumptions or trying to find an angle or a take on it because Ryan Zan, 10 points in the first half, Kyle. Knocked down a couple pick and pop threes, hit a couple jump shots. Played well. Played well right away. Had 10 points in the first half in his first career start. Unfortunately, was held scoreless in the second half. LaSalle only scoring, Kyle, 19 points in the final 20 minutes. So the three balls weren't going down. Andres Morero had a couple in the first half. Even when Rokas came into the game, he knocked down a three in the first half. Felt like everything was going their way. And the second half, this wasn't so much about LaSalle for me, Kyle, as it was about Mason. They locked down on the defensive end. I mean, they really stifled LaSalle in the half court. They really, really did. They had to throw up a couple bad shots at the end of the shot clock. They were containing the ball very well and giving them tough looks. But even sometimes when they had open threes, they just weren't balling, just couldn't hit anything in the second half. And then offensively, in the half court in transition, they were really getting anything they wanted. They really were. And Darius Maddox was knocking down threes. Keyshawn Hall 27 and 13. They just got whatever they wanted. And in the second half, that was, they made it apparent that was their game to have in the second half. Because they were only down 6. LaSalle was just kind of making everything. They were scorching hot in the first half. But Mason showed just how good they can be and why they'll be a competitor. Very, very good half for them on both ends. I mean, LaSalle just couldn't. They couldn't get anything going. They weren't in a rhythm. They were slowing down a little bit, having to play in the half court. And Mason just used their athletes and size to their advantage on that end. So yeah, as much as you can be like, oh well, they only scored 19 after scoring over 40 in the first half, scored 19 points in the last 20 minutes. Like your takeaway from that second half was just how good Mason played. That's how good it was for them. They're going to be a factor for sure. I don't think I saw them in the basement of this conference. I certainly didn't see them being this good. So got to tip my cap to Tony Skinn here. Very, very good game from the George Mason Patriots. And, they could be top 4 or 5 seed once that A-10 tournament comes about.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I didn't, in my first soliloquy, didn't want to discredit George Mason because they played a phenomenal second half, especially, but they played a very good game. Uh, it also definitely was disappointing to only see LaSalle score 19 points in the second half, especially the way they played in the first half. But this Mason team's very good. Um, they're going to make some noise. They're going to make some noise in the A10. It'll be exciting to see for sure. All right. Well, that is all we had to go over. Now we're going to each pick a game for this weekend that we want to preview real quick to wrap up this episode here. There's one very, very good game, which Cope, I think you are going to want to talk about because as much as you love the one team on our side, you definitely love the other team on the other side as well. So why don't you start? Why don't you give us that game that you wanna talk about here?
So I might be at this game, and if I'm not at this game, I'll be at Penn that we can touch on as well to see him play Dartmouth. But look, it's very very obvious when you see that St. Joe's doesn't play till next Wednesday. When you see the list of the 5 games on here, there's only one that jumps out to you. It's St. John's Red Storm coming to Finneran Pavilion to play against Villanova. Obviously, you know about Rick Pitino. You know about the slew of transfers he's brought in, a familiar face in Jordan Dingle coming back. But look, this team took UConn to the brink. They just beat a good Butler team. They have a win over Xavier in the Big East. And as Rick Pitino said, we're coming. Very much similar to Dan Hurley when he was the head coach at UConn. They dropped the game to Villanova, and at the press conference after, he's like, "Look, like you better get us now because it's coming. We're going to start dominating people, and we're not going to be losing games very often in this conference." They're starting to gel a little bit. Joel Soriano's playing very well. RJ Luis just came back from injury. He's played well since his return. 16-point win over Butler. Like I said, they did beat Xavier at Carneseca. And a game that honestly they were up. They should have won, in my opinion. They should have won this game at the end. They just missed. They missed some shots. And there was a couple calls that I guess were a little bit questionable, but that's totally besides the point. It's a really really good team. They lost some games that they shouldn't have, but they're getting a lot better. Defensively, they're getting better. They're starting to find their footing here with as many guys are playing. But because there's I mean, he exceeded the scholarship limit pretty much with how many new guys he brought in. So really, really interested to see this St. John's team come to town. They're going to throw a lot of different defenses at you. I can tell you I'm sure Rick Pitino has already developed a master game plan for how he's going to play this game defensively. After he saw Villanova struggle with the trap and the pressure, you're going to see that. You're going to see some press. You're going to see some matchup zone. You're going to see almost every single defense in the book thrown at you in this game. Maybe some zone as well, because we know Nova doesn't exactly do well with that. So you're going up against one of the best coaches in the history of college basketball, one of the best coaches in the sport right now. Don't care how old he is. Don't care that he went to Greece and had a little leave of absence and came back. Look, this guy wins every single where he goes, every single place he goes, every single place he goes. He's going to be successful here, whether it's this year, whether it's in the coming years. This is a really, really good team you have to play against. They're not going to play that sloppy run up and down. I don't even know what you want to call it. Game played, track meet that Mike Anderson played last year. They're going to be a lot better offensively and a lot more disciplined defensively than they were last year. So this is a really, really tough matchup for them. Now they've had a good record against St. John's. I believe it's been a decade since the Johnnies won at Finneran Pavilion. They did beat Villanova at the Wells Fargo Center in the 2018 season, I believe it was, but they've had success against the Johnnies. So really, really interesting matchup here. That's easily the game of the week. Easily. You have a team in St. John's that their only loss is at UConn, and Villanova's 3-0. It's going to be not only it's easily the best game in the Big Five, it'll be one of the premier games of the weekend as well.
It 100% will be one of the premier games in the Big Five as well. It's just listen, and obviously it doesn't help that I think the entire Big Five slate isn't up to par with what it normally could be. Obviously, St. Joe's isn't playing this week, so that's the Big Five champion right there. But this game is going to be very, very good, and we get to see Rick Pitino at St. John's, excuse me, for the first time in Philadelphia for this. So this will be very, very cool for that. My game, I'm going to go with the one that you were just talking about before this, Dartmouth at Penn. I wouldn't say it's the most exciting game in the universe, especially with Clark Slackard out, but a very important game for Penn to open up Ivy League play. Well, I think my microphone changed. We're good. An opportunity for them to open up Ivy League play with a win against a team that's not very good. They're 323rd in Ken Palm. So this is a get right for game for them. I definitely think it's one they can win. It's at the Palestra. Copestick might be there. All these things are in their direction. So give me the Quakers in this one. Even without Clark Slackett, I think they got enough juice to get it done. Um, and start off the Ivy League right because if they get into that top four and Clark Slacker's back, I do think they can make some noise. I think the only team that really, really scares me in the Ivy League, obviously, is Princeton. Um, but there's also some demons exercise there too from last year and the year before. So I'm going to take Penn in this one. That's going to be my game to watch for this weekend. Um, but there's some other good ones too. Wichita State at Temple is a decent one, and then Drexel at William and Mary, and LaSalle at Fordham also at noon on Saturday. Cope, that seems to be pretty much all we got here for episode number 66 of the Big Five Pod. Any final thoughts here before we sign off?
I'm all good. I think I'm actually tired of hearing myself talk, so we can sign off now. Safe travels to you. You're headed to California. Enjoy
Thank
yourself.
you.
Weather's Please bring back some nice weather with you. It's
I'll
cold.
try.
It's dark out early. I don't know if you can help
Yeah.
out with that, but it would be cool. But safe travels out there. Have a good time. Take a break for a little bit. Enjoy yourself, and I'll figure the rest out. I'll get somebody on. It won't be your replacement. It's just
No,
temporary.
no,
I swear.
no, just temporary. Just like yours was temporary when you were sick. Mine will be temporary when I am on vacation. Yes, I'm going to California, SoCal to be specific. So I'm very, very excited for that. Get to visit some family out there, get to see some friends, see some basketball. I think I will be going to Clippers Suns out there, which would be cool. And I'm most excited for Joshua Tree National Park, which I'm going to be seeing. Definitely on my short list of national parks uh, that I want to see. I do want to see all of them at some point, but Joshua Tree is definitely in that upper echelon of ones I have not yet. So very, very excited for that. And though I will miss all of you, I will miss all of you very, very much. I am excited for a break here. Obviously, there was a break over the holidays too, but you factor in work, you factor in everything. It'll be good to get away. Nice, little bit of warmer weather. Um, so yeah, I'm excited for that. So thank you for the well wishes for the traveling. And definitely will be seeing you guys after I get back. But Cope will get someone on who's going to be very, very good and he's going to take over some hosting duties. So definitely be on the lookout for that. And until then, thank you guys for tuning in. As always, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube. Make sure you like it, or I already said like and subscribe. Make sure you follow our social media channels at Big Five Pod on Instagram and Twitter. And make sure you check out our audio only versions on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And with that being said, like I said, thank you all for tuning in. And we will see you, Cope, and someone else will see you hopefully this coming week. I will see you in about a week and a half or so. So until then, peace.